and we'll get on the air if that's okay.
We're ready.
Why don't you go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, Police Blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It is brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Dianne Crutcher. She is the executive director of the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization. Dianne, a good morning and happy holidays to you. How was your holiday, Dianne?
It was wonderful. Thank you, Seth, and thanks for welcoming CIDSO to this program.
Well, it's good to have you on the program, and let's just kind of start there, Dianne. What is CIDSO? Down syndrome. Folks may be familiar with it, maybe they're not as familiar with it. Tell us about Down syndrome and your organization, how you help families and individuals. How about that?
Certainly. Thank you so much. Well, as people probably know, Down syndrome is an intellectual developmental disability. It's caused by an extra chromosome on number 21 typically, and the disability can do a variety of things to our folks. Not only are there challenges regarding the ability to mentally function and intellectually function, but there are also always health concerns as well. But our Down Syndrome organization focuses on what we can do and how we can make lives better. Mm-hmm. CIDSO, the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization, of which I'm the vice president, community liaison, was formed 50 years ago. My husband and I had our second child then, and she was diagnosed with Down syndrome about 12 hours after her birth. And there were no forms of assistance at all. There was no support. There was no guidance. There was absolutely no hope. Everywhere we turned, there was a door, literally, sometimes and certainly figuratively, shut in our face. And we were determined to make life better, not just for our daughter and our family, but for others who would be affected by Down syndrome down the road. And so with another couple, we formed CIDSO, CIDSO, the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization, 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're proud that it is still going today. It is completely volunteer-driven, and we provide assistance to families so that they can better assure having lifelong opportunities in their communities.
You mentioned, Dianne, 50 years ago when you started this, that you found there was not many options for your family. Was Down syndrome relatively, I don't want to say unknown, but was it relatively, was there not a lot of information about this at that time?
That's a great question, Seth. And in reality, what happened is that Down syndrome, probably along with a variety of other disabilities, got caught and in a quagmire where there was no progress made. And what my husband and I found is that when people stop talking about the issues that they're facing, then those around them don't know anything about those issues. Mm-hmm. And so it really wasn't ignorance that was intended to be unkind. It was ignorance because nobody was talking about the realities of Down syndrome and that these are people too, and that they deserve every opportunity that all the rest of us do. So backwards, no assistance, no support was blatant. And we were determined that our daughter would have every opportunity we could unfold for her. She was the first person with Down syndrome in our school district to graduate from regular high school. Mm-hmm. She went on to attend Heartland Community College and finished a program there, designed specifically for people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. She has a learner's permit to drive. She has worked for many years and is currently at Hy-Vee, entertaining and serving customers there. She enjoys a greater social life than we've ever had.
When it comes to the severity of Down syndrome, Dianne? Is it a spectrum? Is everybody's the same? I guess, what does that look like?
That's a great question as well. We certainly range from people who are literally near normal, if not in IQ, in their functional, intellectual function. And we have people who are more severely involved as well. Sometimes we have people with dual diagnosis. They may have autism and Down syndrome as well. And so the more complicating factors that you have, the greater the need for assistance and support for the individual. But what we've found is that everybody can and will and does progress. And we want them to have a lifetime of embracing their full potential. That's really where we are. So regardless of where one falls, we want everybody and their families to be able to embrace and achieve the best for that child throughout their life.
Dianne, again, our guest on the phone today is Dianne Crutcher with the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization. So, Dianne, do you mind walking us through a little bit, the early years of your organization, where you got started, how you basically got things off the ground to rally folks with either Down syndrome or families with a child with Down syndrome, and how you were able to help them early on? Like, what were the early days of your organization like?
Well, to say that it was the naive approach is an understatement, Seth. We really didn't know what we needed to do in order to form an organization. We had never done anything like that before. We were 25. We just knew that there was a need for a public outcry on behalf of people with Down syndrome, and we felt that an organization, not so much for fundraising, but for public awareness at that point, was the most important thing. And so initially, another family and my husband and I got together, and we started researching. And back then, of course, there weren't computers, so you went to the library, and I spent hours and hours, as did my kids, at the library researching how one begins a not-for-profit organization. And so we followed all of those guidelines and rules. We formed SIDSO officially. But in the meantime, we would hold meetings once a month in a meeting room that we got for free because we had no money. The organization had no money. And eventually, we began to draw in some people in the community, either families with newborns or families who already had a person with Down syndrome, and were seeking support, collaboration. And we did things like we made macrame plant hangers and sold them. We would get Tupperware and sell it at the mall at the tables when they used to do that at Eastland Mall. So we did all kinds of things to try and raise even $200 or $300. Eventually, we were able to get enough money to get a phone, and that phone rang into our home for about 30 years. Oh, wow. And we publicized and became far more available that way.
Interesting stuff. When you expanded that availability, what happened then? I mean, did more inquiries come in? Did more conversations happen? What happened after that? I mean, was that a turning point at all?
As the organization grew in size, we were better able to do a whole variety of things. And so we would offer conferences, albeit they were small, but we would offer conferences. I became active nationally, and so I was able to bring in a variety of very well-informed speakers on the topics surrounding Down syndrome. And so that helped us grow. And we were also able to reach out to people through not just the phone lines, but we would go to the doctor's offices, tell them about SIDSO. We got enough money to print a brochure, and so we left those at doctor's offices and schools. Also, about 8 years into SIDSO, we started a major fundraiser of a golf tournament, and that ran for 38 years. And that began to draw in people from outside the Down syndrome arena, which is really what any organization needs in order to gain a foothold in a community. So that was huge for us.
Sure. Dianne, I'll tell you what, I look at the clock. Let's take a time out here and come back and maybe talk about, where the organization is at today, how assistance and help looks today versus when you got started and some of those things. But in the meantime, how do folks learn about your organization or get a hold of whether it's you or someone within it to talk about Down syndrome in their life and how it's impacting them?
We have an email, sidsofamilies@gmail.com, sidsofamilies, all one word. And we have a phone, of course, 309-452-3264. And a couple of Facebook pages. One is for general information, and anyone can look at that at any time. And another one is for parents and caregivers specifically, and so it is a membership page. So we welcome phone calls. We have a sidso.org website with a variety of resources, and I am the community liaison, so I respond to the emails.
Very good. Dianne, we'll take that break here, come back with some more with Dianne Crutcher with the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization, our guest on the phone. More to come with Dianne on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Are you a friend of agriculture? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. We're giving $500 towards the purchase of a new Buick or any new Silverado through the end of the year. That's correct. Any new Buick Enclave, Envision, or even the sporty Buick GX. And yes, any new Silverado 1500, 2500, or 3500 in gas or diesel. See our staff for details. Baum Chevrolet Buick, right from the start.
Clinton is set to be one of the downstate Illinois' fastest multi-gig cities. That's right. Connexus is thrilled to be building in Clinton the most reliable and fastest internet service, now with residential speeds up to 2.5 gigabytes. Construction continues throughout Clinton, with service currently being installed in the northwest part of town. Fall in love with your internet again with incredible 2.5 gigabyte speed right to your home. Click the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber not available everywhere. Terms and conditions apply.
At Central Illinois Outdoors with me, Jared White, we want you to be a part of the program as well via the Archer's Alley Catch of the Week. Each week, we'll select one of your pictures submitted at centralillinoisoutdoors.com and invite you to tell your story of the great outdoors. We're looking for your kid's first catch or even your first big buck. There's a simple, easy form you can fill out on your phone or computer at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. Send us your story, send us your pic. centralillinoisoutdoors.com and the Catch of the Week, brought to you by Archer's Alley, North 22nd Street in Decatur. For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence, and the WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Again, my guest on the phone is Dianne Crutcher with the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization. And Dianne, let's dive into, the organization itself. You mentioned has been around for 50 years, and when you started it, it was really about raising awareness and those sorts of things, and then kind of grew to connecting people and making resources available and things of that nature. What does the organization look like now? What are you doing these days that stands out to you?
Oh, thanks, Seth. So many wonderful things. We have new parent support in the form of educational materials and resources, and that includes not just families of newborns, but families who have welcomed a child with Down syndrome into their home. One of the things that we're proud of is that we have helped facilitate kids with Down syndrome being placed into families who want to take that opportunity to expand their life and their family life, and certainly the life of the person with Down syndrome. So we're very pleased about that. So new parent support is one of our big outreaches. We certainly have all kinds of recreational events throughout the years, and that allows families of all ages of people with Down syndrome to get together and share and support one another. Some of the best guidance you can get are from people that have been there, if you will. And so that's been very meaningful for us. Our biggest fundraiser is the Buddy Walk, which is held in September of every year. And that includes hundreds of people, many of whom don't have a direct tie to the Down syndrome community, but are there because they're good people and they want to help us. We're a not-for-profit. We have no paid staff. We're completely volunteer-driven, and our families help run the organization, guided by the membership. So all of that kind of external support, especially for funds, is important to us. We have informational meetings quarterly. We have a website that has all kinds of resources that are annotated by category. And that way, no matter the time of the day or the day of the week, you can get in there and find resources for you, your family, your child in just about any area that you want. So we're proud of that outreach as well.
Very good. Very good. Dianne, when it comes to the evolution of the organization, when did you start getting to a point where you said we can grow, we can do more, we can have a bigger impact, a bigger maybe footprint, if you will? When was that point for you in the evolution of the organization?
I would have to say that as we did our major fundraiser, that golf tournament, about 8 years into the organization, we were able to draw people in who enjoyed playing golf. And they enjoyed also then giving a little bit more money than they would ordinarily do for playing golf to our organization. And that allowed us a far greater flexibility to promote ourselves in a variety of ways. And that was really the turning point. We were able to not just afford the phone line and a little bit nicer brochure as opposed to one that was photocopied or mimeographed, but we were able to start doing things like holding conferences and reaching out on a national level for more guidance. That was our turning point.
Dianne, are there any success stories that are that you want to talk about this morning? Anything that maybe an individual, and you don't have to say names or anything like that, but a story or two that exemplifies what your organization is all about?
You know, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of stories. But some that come to mind are several of our, and we call them our kids, but they're adults. Many of them are adults now. And they are out in the community, not just working, but enjoying social opportunities. And we are so proud to go to their recitals and their plays and their dances and things like that show that our kids can do what everybody else can do. They do it in their way, and they do it always with a smile. There's never a judgment from a person with Down syndrome. They always give people the benefit of the doubt. We have hundreds of families that we've connected with others around the country so that when they relocate, they're able to do so far more easily and gain services for their child with Down syndrome. The Heartland Community College HALO program is one that CIDSO was an impetus for beginning, and that has had all kinds of people graduate from it who have Down syndrome. So many success stories, a lot of them just having to do with life and opportunities that the rest of us are afforded a little more easily.
Sure. Very good. Dianne, in our final few minutes, you mentioned a couple of fundraising opportunities that folks can support you through. How else can people out there support your organization? You know, do you need supplies? Do you need, financial contributions? What are ways that we can support the Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization?
Well, thanks for asking that, because obviously when you are family run, if you will, all kinds of support is needed. We have, as I said, the annual Buddy Walk, and that requires a lot of volunteers to pull it off. And on our sidso.org website, there is a link for the Buddy Walk. There's also a link for volunteering for the organization in all kinds of ways. Some people volunteer just because they have information technology background and assist us with all of that, because we don't have the funds, to pay for that. We have recreational events, and it's always great to have volunteers come and assist at those. And those volunteer opportunities, again, are on the website. And of course, on the website is the opportunity to donate to the organization. And all funds go back into service for people with Down syndrome and their families. There's no paid staff, and so nobody is receiving any kind of salary for serving SIDSO, and we're very proud of that.
Interesting stuff. Very good. Well, Dianne, again, we've got about a minute left here with you this morning. Best way for folks to follow along with all the things you're doing, ways that it maybe upcoming ways that they can support you, or just get information about SIDSO in general. Where do they go? How do they find some of that information?
We have a website, sidso.org. We also have an email. It is lowercase CIDSO families, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, our phone number, 309-452-3264. We're also available on Facebook. And we have a parents and caregivers private site. So anyone that would like to get on that just needs to get in touch with us at sidsofamilies@gmail.com, and we're glad to embrace you into our group.
I wish we would have talked more about the support groups and the support opportunities, Dianne, but unfortunately we're out of time. It was good to have you on the program, Dianne. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Seth.
Absolutely. It was good to have you. Again, that's Dianne Crutcher, Central Illinois Down Syndrome Organization, our guest on the phone here for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It is brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. Michigan Supreme Court is keeping former President Trump on the state's primary election ballot. The court says it will not hear an appeal of a